GTA 3 changed the game industry in a number of ways. Open world games were essentially GTA clones in the PS2 era, and we got plenty of copycats on the Xbox 360 that actually went on to mild success. Games like the Saints Row series copied the formula of the GTA games while adding their own twists, but we're not talking about those games. We're talking about the failures.
Word to your mother.
Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanx, 10 games that failed trying to copy Grand Theft Auto. There's one giant bomb we can immediately think of, and we're going to start there at number 10 with Mindseye, a weird, failed copy of GTA that isn't obviously a GTA clone. It's not an open world game, even if it does have a giant open world map you can drive around in. Cars aren't important in the game, but you can't steal them. Still, if you play the game, you quickly realize it's GTA, or at least it's trying to be. From the cutscenes to the third-person shooting, it might be set in a cyberpunk city, but it's telling a satirical story about evil politicians, corporations, and cops. You might be a mercenary, but you're really no different than Tommy Vercetti working for a different random crime lord. One of the lame elements of the satire is a mayor that somehow profits from forcing electric cars to have engine noises. I don't know why you would need a specialized company to stick a speaker into the car. If they had set up some good reason or something that mirrors real life, and it could have been good satire, but as it stands, we have no idea, and we're not the creators of Mindseye, so whatever the hell they were thinking, I don't know. Mindseye is set in a cyberpunk dystopia that isn't even remotely as interesting as something like Cyberpunk 2077. The city of Red Rock doesn't look like a megacity so much as it looks like a dusty, dreary version of Las Vegas, where you can't enter any of the casinos or gamble or do anything that isn't strictly on the story path. The linear story of Mindseye definitely makes it very different to GTA, but not in a good way. It makes it look like GTA but shittier. Looking at the development history and the original plans for the game, it's pretty easy to see that it was meant for open world greatness, but all that extra stuff outside the main campaign had to be cut to get the game out the door. It's another development hell game with a long history, and that history clearly points at GTA. The game's developer, Leslie Benzies, was known for the GTA series, and that's what the audience expected out of this weirdo game, but what we got was a buggy, half-finished, boring mess. Now, in terms of GameRanx, what you can expect is pretty consistent uploads daily, hopefully stuff that you like, and this is the moment I'm going to take to remind you to subscribe, because most of you are not subscribed. It helps us out a whole lot, and hopefully it helps you as well to see something or hear something you're interested in. Not going to spend too long bugging you for a subscription, but thanks a whole lot for the people who do. At number 9, it's APB All Points Bulletin. One of the most infamous failures in video games started out as a pretty good idea. APB All Points Bulletin is a multiplayer shooter where teams of players load into the same massively multiplayer world and commit crimes or work together to stop them. You'd get to make and customize your gang or police task force, driving around, going on a rampage in a realistic modern environment. It sounds like a great concept for a video game, but it's one game that just botched the fundamentals. It simply wasn't fun. It's a cops and robbers game that only exists because of GTA. No one would finance something like this without the runaway success of GTA, and APB was, by all accounts, a very expensive game. While the city wasn't truly open world, the outdoor environments are split into very large segments. You're free to steal cars, buy guns, commit crimes however you want when you're dropping in. Too bad, during its initial open public beta testing, the world just felt flat and empty. You weren't pulling off heists in banks or taking hostages in packed stores. You'd plant a bomb in an empty park or rob a bank kiosk. There's very little grit to this criminal world. It's set in a pristine city where criminal gangs swerve through streets like madmen. All feels bare bones and very incomplete, and yet it's lasted for a very long time for whatever reason. The initial developers were Real-Time Worlds, but the company quickly folded and was purchased by K2 Network and relaunched as a free-to-play game, which definitely feels more appropriate for the level of content we got here. Somehow APB limped out onto the Xbox Xbox One and PS4 thanks to a cash infusion from Deep Silver, yet another publisher infusing cash into this Walking Dead video game. The servers are still alive for APB Reloaded on Steam. Don't ask how or why so many gaming companies want to keep this alive. We can only guess it's because GTA is so popular and also takes so long to come out. People eventually go, I'll try APB. And number 8, it's Driver 3, or as I love to fondly call it, Drive 3R. Driver takes a right turn towards the GTA clone subgenre in its third game. The first Driver beat GTA 3 to the market as an open-world game about driving cars, but it's also really primitive and infamously difficult, and it's no surprise that the GTA games came in first place. Drive 3R blatantly tries to copy the formula of GTA by allowing the main character to leave his car and hijack any other vehicle on the road. He can also get his hands on an array of powerful weapons and perform drive-by shootings, even if you do play as a federal agent instead of a criminal. It's a weird thing to do. The game goes further than your average GTA ripoff by including a mode partially inspired by Vice City where you're hunting opponents in Miami based on Tommy Vercetti. It's not the last game on our list to directly reference Vice City, and maybe it's impossible when one of the 3 cities you explore in this game is Miami. Drive 3R introduced a new audience to the series, or tried to anyways, by copying GTA, but that didn't work. It wasn't the last open world game in the franchise. Either Driver, Parallel Lines continued to beat the GTA drums to forgettable success. It wasn't until Driver San Francisco that the series discovered a totally unique identity by removing all the GTA influence from the plot. In San Francisco, you don't even play as a character. You play as a ghost that hijacks cars from a god's eye view from the skies. It's a crazy premise that makes it one of the more memorable open world games of the Xbox 360 era, and it could only achieve that by trying an original idea. And number 7 is Crime Boss Rockay City, a game that has nothing to do with GTA and yet everything to do with GTA. Crime Boss Rockay City is a cooperative multiplayer shooter where you go on missions to take territory away from rival gangs with the goal to become the biggest, baddest crime boss of Fake Town. It's a blatant Payday ripoff, but somehow shares more energy with the GTA series. At least, the publisher wants you to think it is. The game is packed with celebrity cameos that serve no functional purpose and add nothing to the game. Celebrity voice actors added a lot of energy to games like Vice City and San Andreas, but here they're an obvious ploy to trick people into thinking this is a big-budget game about a big-budget open-world crime city. Rockay City itself is a setting ripped directly from Vice City. Both games were ripping off Michael Mann's Miami Vice, but let's not get technical. Rockay City is a video game, and publishers are strictly looking for video game success stories to rip off. Saying that this is inspired by Miami Vice is a cover. We all know the reason Crime Boss exists, and it ain't because of a TV show in the 80s. The game prominently features Michael Madsen on the cover. Madsen is a crime game icon at this point. There are so many examples of him in these games, even if there's only a small part for him in GTA 3. Oh, we'll be seeing him a lot on this list, besides in this point, might I add. And number 6 is Lego City Undercover. One of the wildest GTA clones is probably this one, for the reason that this is a full-on GTA for kids. It's got criminal empires, cops, corruption at the highest levels. It's also it's a silly Lego game with a totally original story. It's the one time the developers of the Lego video games broke format and just made something completely different than the usual licensed Lego games. We all love Lego Star Wars, but there were a lot of those games in the PS2 and PS3 era. We've got a stack of Lego licensed games in a plastic bin somewhere, so it's pretty refreshing to see the developers try something different. And it's the only game like it in the whole series. Lego City Undercover is a soft parody of crime movie tropes. It even begins with your hero arriving at the New York-inspired city in a tanker ship. You play as a cop investigating an old nemesis in town. You might be playing a different side of the law, but you'll eventually get disguises and go fully undercover. Violent crimes like robbing cars and smashing pedestrians are a lot more fun in Lego form, actually, where everyone flops around harmlessly. Also, you can steal any vehicle on the road you want, but you don't start the game with a gun. You're given a kid-friendly grappling hook instead. It's actually one of the more inspired Lego games in the series, even if it didn't succeed. It's just so weird that there's a children's version of GTA, though. You can't pass that up. At number 5 is Final Fight Streetwise. The success of GTA 3 shocked rival publishers. Suddenly, everyone needed a crime game. A lot of executives probably thought, oh, a crime game? That's easy to copy. Rather than, oh, an open world game? That's innovative. The open world aspects were viewed as secondary to the general gritty, foul-mouthed aesthetic of GTA because it was easier to copy, like I said, I think. At least that's my opinion. And so, Final Fight Streetwise was born. This weirdo continuation of the Final Fight franchise drops the beat-em-up formula and turns the game into a brawler set on the mean streets of Metro City. It's an infamous flop and an embarrassing stain on Capcom's record. Increasingly, Japanese developers were trying to create games for a Western audience, and Streetwise was Capcom's confusing entry to that fray. A game nobody wanted, Final Fight Streetwise is about walking around the city, brawling with thugs, and basic arcade-like combat controls. Not like fun, Yakuza-style stuff, but maybe trying to kind of be that? I don't know. You had a bunch of story missions, that's the game. The game, it's grimy, it's got bad cutscenes, worse voice acting. There's so much that it flips around to become so bad it's good. It's actually.
All my life, I've been a fighter. Don't you see? Without it, I'm nothing.
You need a specific sense of humor to get anything out of the early hours of Streetwise, but it's pretty funny seeing gritty, serious versions of Cody, Guy, and Hagar as they battle foul-mouthed crime lords in a dirty, disgusting alleyway. The game really goes off the rails in the later sections of the story, where a new drug called Glow has hit the streets, transforming people into bizarre mutants. It's so ill-conceived, so silly, and so desperate to get some of that sweet GTA money. It's a failure game masterpiece that everyone interested in dumb, bad games should play.
Thought you said your brother could fight.
And number 4 is Wheelman. Mr. Fast and Furious himself starred in Wheelman, a game that is much closer to GTA in gameplay than anything we've put on this list so far. Wheelman is actually a bog-standard GTA clone set in an open-world city with a series of single-player missions to complete. It's got a very gravelly Vin Diesel mumbling his way through stock video game action man lines.
Hey, Milo, word on the street is you left Felipe Leal stuck underneath a crane.
Do you believe everything you hear?
About you? Always.
And a focus on a story that it doesn't really matter, because really we're here for the criminal chaos. It's a game about driving around, escaping cops, shooting people in third-person action sequences. There's not a whole lot more than that, and it's mostly interesting because of how forgotten it is. Unlike games like Saints Row, this did not spawn a franchise, even when Mr. Diesel was doing his best to insert himself into as many video games as possible. But, while his leading turn and Escape from Butcher Bay produce a classic video game that's still extremely fun to play today, Wheelman is... it's pretty forgotten. The Barcelona setting is unique for these types of games, but we quickly realize why most of these games aren't set in countries that don't speak English. This game is wall-to-wall bad, and fake accents, fake accents. Every non-major character, just fake accents ahoy.
Porfa, sorry, I can fix this. I'm working on something muy grande.
No, Benito. No more big jobs for you. Milo, you take care of him for me.
Like every GTA game, you're on the phone with colorful criminals giving you jobs that usually involve moving a car from one place to another, usually very quickly. It's a good formula, but one that doesn't stand out as anything special in Wheelman. This is one of those B games. You kids used to dig through the bargain bins too, right? Sometimes you need a GTA copycat to carry the 10 years between the mainline GTA game releases. And number 3 is Made Man, Confessions of the Family Blood. Lists like this are typically packed with games like Scarface, The World Is Yours, or the Godfather series of games. And if you didn't know those games existed, now you do. But those games are also way too competent. They're bog-standard GTA ripoffs, but that makes them boring to talk about. No, we need to dig a little deeper. We need to talk about Made Man, Confessions of the Family Blood. Made Man, a third-person shooter with aspirations, let's say. It wants to tell a real story. Games like Mafia were already copying GTA and carving out their own niche in the video game market by delving deeper than GTA, telling more compelling crime stories with maybe a little more emotion, and Made Man is shooting for that. The game begins with a long driving sequence to make it more like GTA, I guess, before dumping your loser criminal into a diner to take out some thugs. There's something immediately low-rent and awkward about Made Man that makes it specifically funny. Maybe it's the serious tone and the really bad voice acting. Maybe it's the sub-Goodfellas internal monologues.
So like I told you, I'd managed to get to the swamp. All I had to do now was catch up with this weasel Walt and get my truck back, but wasn't exactly all alone out there.
It's a low-budget game that's trying to lure in GTA gamers with a story that's a little closer to real life, but it also looks like a mod for The Sims. The fast-talking, ridiculous Southerners in the first mission are so incredibly over the top, it does feel straight out of a bad GTA mission. And when you get slow-mo powers and double guns, you might think it's actually a Max Payne clone, but it's important to remember that gritty crime atmosphere is what most low-budget developers were trying to copy from GTA. They wanted the tough guy fast-talking and the bad language, because that stuff is, again, it's way easier to copy than an innovative type of game, of which there were none prior. This game is trying to tell a macho story about how a life of crime erodes your soul, but when you're running around Vietnam flashbacks carrying around double AK-47s, it's too ridiculous to take serious. It fails bad at its one job. Where GTA is actually funny, Made Man is unintentionally funny. Like, you could almost say that GTA was made to parody this. Like, it sometimes feels like this is what must have inspired those GTA jokes, but it's not. And number 2 is True Crime Streets of LA. The most direct copy of the GTA games on PS2 has probably got to be one of the weirdest. True Crime Streets of LA looks like the most boring version of a crime game. You play as a boring cop in a very flat city. What made this game special was just how much more elaborate the fighting and shooting mechanics were.
They'll have no fury like Big Kang, pissed off.
GTA games are generally pretty simple, even in the modern era. You don't really use high or low kicks to fight bad guys. You don't have a heavy attack button. But the complicated mechanics are, yeah, they're weird, but the story, it goes further. It sends this game into truly bonkers territory. For a game with true crime in the title, this is the most fictional-ass video game story of all time. There's a branching narrative in Streets of LA that changes endings pretty significantly, and one of the endings is completely batshit insane. One story path leads to your detective confronting a North Korean general that is behind the entire criminal enterprise. Apparently, North Korea is so hard up for cash they need to run a small-time counterfeiting operation in LA. That's a completely insane twist for the end of the game, and one of the weirdest plot turns in any of these very silly crime games. Oh, and yes, the game also has Michael Madsen in it, and any game with Michael Madsen by default now counts as a GTA clone. And finally, at number 1, it's Yakuza. Stop before you yell at us in the comments to tell us how the Yakuza series can't possibly consider itself a failure, and how is it anything like GTA. The long-running action series from Sega is one of the most successful franchises ever in Japan, with periodic releases that are huge events in their home country. There's so many of these games, and they're so widely beloved, it's strange to think where this series actually started. The first Yakuza game did something none of the other games did. For the West, Yakuza on PS2 was dubbed by Hollywood talent. It was a big, expensive production, and it was clearly designed for the GTA market. How do we know? Because Michael Madsen's in the game. He voices a tertiary character in the game, but his involvement says a lot about what this dub was going for. The cast leans into the seedier side of the series, and the first game is far sleazier than anything in the later games. In general, the Yakuza games are about everything except crime. You're the squeakiest, cleanest Yakuza enforcers in history in most of these games, but in Yakuza 1 on PS2, the envelope is pushed. This is the only game of the bunch that deals with sexual assault in the opening hours. It's kind of shocking compared to the future games and where they can be, where even murder is fairly rare. Usually these games pull out a shocking twist where anyone that might seem dead is actually not. That does not happen in Yakuza 1. An entire cast of characters are introduced and die in this game. That gritty, gross, bad-mouthed approach never really carried over into the rest of the series, though. Yakuza 2 is a grittier crime story, but the English dubs were far from, there at all. It's only thanks to the eventual popularity that the series did get dubs. For the PS3 era of Yakuza games, we weren't even sure if these games would actually get an international release. That's how much damage the expensive celebrity cast did to the Yakuza games. These games are absolutely great, but the American branch of Sega learned the wrong lessons from the GTA series. Luckily, this is one franchise that learned its lesson and went on to grant great things. Huge success. I mean, there's so many more failed GTA clones out there, but we wanted to stick the funniest and weirdest ones on this list. There's a lot of other crime games you can play, and they all look the same. So tell us your favorite GTA clones, whether they're successful copies or totally failed. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on GameRanx.